What's the most petty but extreme revenge you've ever gotten? I worked at this marketing agency for 3 years, and my manager Greg treated me like I was still a college intern. Every single morning I'd make coffee in the break room, and Greg would walk up, grab my cup right out of the machine, and go, "Thanks, kid," like I brewed it specifically for him. I'm 26. I have a degree. But sure, Greg, I'm your personal barista. The worst part was everyone just laughed along with him. Greg had this way of making you feel small, but doing it with a smile so you couldn't really call him out without looking sensitive. He'd take credit for my campaign ideas in meetings. He'd forward my emails to clients and delete my name from the thread. One time I stayed until midnight fixing his screw-up on a Toyota account, and he told the boss he did it himself, but I kept my head down because I needed the job, and Greg had been there 8 years. Then one Monday I brought in my grandfather's mug. It was this old blue ceramic thing my grandpa used every morning before he died. My grandma gave it to me last Christmas. It was literally the only thing I had of his. I left it by the sink to dry, and Greg picked it up, looked at it, and just dropped it. It cracked perfectly in half in the sink. He looked right at me and laughed. Guess it wasn't dishwasher safe. Everyone in the break room laughed. I just stood there looking at the pieces. Greg patted my shoulder and walked out. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just smiled real big and said, "All good, Greg. It's just a mug." But inside, something switched off. That week I started paying attention. Really paying attention. Greg had been doing shady stuff for years, but nobody checked because he brought in decent numbers. I started screenshotting everything. His fake overtime reports where he claimed he worked Sundays, but I saw him at Topgolf. Expense reports for client dinners that never happened. I even found emails where he was forwarding our client leads to his cousin's new startup firm. Straight up stealing from our company. I kept a whole folder on my personal laptop. Just waited. For 3 months I played the same role. Made coffee, laughed at his jokes, let him talk over me in meetings. He had no idea. Then our CEO scheduled this huge presentation for a potential client worth $200,000. It was the biggest pitch of the year. Greg was leading it, obviously. The night before, I volunteered to help him finalize the slides. He was so happy. "Finally being useful, huh, kid?" I smiled and nodded. What Greg didn't know was I made 2 versions of the slideshow. One was his normal pitch. The other one had everything. Every screenshot of his fake overtime. Every expense fraud. Even a recording I got of him on the phone literally saying, "Yeah, I just billed them for hours I didn't work. They never check." I saved that version with the exact same file name as his real one and swapped them on the shared drive at 6 in the morning. Presentation started at 9. The CEO was there. The client was there. Our whole senior team. Greg walked in wearing his expensive suit looking so confident. He opened the slides on the big screen and started talking. First few slides were normal. Then slide 7 popped up. Big, bold letters. How Greg really runs this team. Greg's face went from confident to confused to horrified in about 2 seconds. The next slide was a screenshot of his fake timesheet. Then his cousin's email chain. Then the expense reports. Then the recording started playing through the speakers. His own voice saying, "They never check." The room went completely silent. The CEO's face turned white, then red. The client looked uncomfortable. Greg just stood there frozen, clicking the remote like that would make it stop. It didn't stop. 20 slides of pure evidence. When it finally ended, the CEO stood up and said, "Greg, hallway, now." They escorted him out within an hour. Security walked him to his desk and watched him pack. I stayed at my desk acting confused like everyone else. 2 days later, they promoted someone from a different team to replace him. That person actually asks me for input now. Treats me like I have a brain. Last week, I walked into the break room and saw Greg's fancy mug still sitting in the cabinet. The one he always used. The one he loved. I picked it up, walked over to the trash can, and dropped it in. It made the most satisfying crack sound. I leaned over and whispered to nobody. Guess it wasn't dishwasher safe either. I know it was petty. I know it was extreme. But that mug was my grandpa's. And Greg never apologized. Not once. Now he's gone, and I never have to make coffee for anyone again. Worth it.